Hello, football fans. So, where do we go from here? Where do we start from, actually? Where else to start than Alexander Isak? Apparently, Liverpool made an offer for him and has had that rejected. I think the entire package was about 120 million pounds, and that been rejected. And of course, I heard some talk about. I think that would have been crazy. I heard some talk about Nunes, being offered as well, and that was quite rightly rejected because, like I said, it's just like me needing glasses to see, and then someone offers me sunshades. What's the point? So, fair play to Newcastle for rejecting that offer. And I think it's, according to Fabrizio Romano, it's all tied to their ability to get a striker in the building to get a replacement. So, according to Fabrizio Romano, it says Liverpool opening bid for Alexander Isak was what? 120 million pounds package plus add-ons. Newcastle rejected as they won't open doors at least until finding a replacement, and it's not guaranteed at this stage. Isak insists with Newcastle on his clear desire to join Liverpool. Fair play, fair play, fair play to him for insisting. But I'm sorry, Mr. Isak, or rather Mr. Alexander, you are tied. Mr. Isak, sorry, you're tied to a 3-year contract to Liverpool. So I mean to Newcastle United. So you can insist all you want, but fair play to Newcastle. I think they should let him go. They'll eventually let him go, but they want to get someone in the building. And for me, maybe they're looking at Sesko, and they have a fight on their hands with Manchester United to get Sesko. And for me, I just think right now, maybe they leave the obvious targets. I know maybe this may seem like something that they have their egos tipping it. Oh, we need to get that big marquee signing. That's that signing, that is well known. That will also help improve the Newcastle brand, because we have to remember when clubs make this sort of deals or sign players, it's not just what the players can do on the field. Yes, that's the most important thing, but additionally, you have how players can affect the brand of your club as well. So maybe that's why they insisted on a player like Is or like Sesko. For me, maybe you go for a Tola Rokodare, for instance. That was a target of West Ham United. I think they were Newcastle United, to be fair, were also interested in him at some point. Or Rafi Dorishimi as well, a target for Frankfurt. In fact, that deal should have gone through. It almost went through, but he had some knee issues at that point in time, so the deal didn't go through. But he is kind of like an Isak. He's 6'4". He can run the channels. He's got pace, as opposed to wanting to die on this Sesko heel. Because talking about strikers, one they should have gone for, and I think would have got him if they had gone for him. Victor Osimhen, he's off the table. He's been introduced to the Galatasaray team. I mean, fans. So he's done. That's gone. He's happy to be there. It feels like home for him. So he's off the board. You've got João Pedro that Newcastle United wanted at some point. He's also off the board. You've got Nicholas Jackson. He's still there at Chelsea. Would they want to go for Nicholas Jackson? So you Harry Kane, you're not getting Harry Kane. Lewandowski, you're not getting him. So that's it. You have those main striker targets, or rather the obvious striker targets, off the table. Eketike you wanted to get gone to Liverpool. So the main obvious targets that are obvious to everyone in sort of a football off the table. So you can go for these targets that may seem to be cheap targets, but could turn out to be absolute bargains, because Tola Rokodare, top player, pace, power, can play that lone man that Isak plays, but maybe doesn't run the channels as much as an Isak would do. Rafi Dorishimi as well is there as well. So maybe you look for those targets and you take 120 million pounds off of Isak. But then again, Liverpool fans may, and rightly so, may want to get those big name players, may want to get a big name striker, through the doors. So how you go, man? The United should let Isak go for 120 million pounds and add-ons for Isak due to Liverpool, and Wissa Benjamin Sesko should sign for Newcastle United now. Well, the Benjamin Sesko thing is not guaranteed. It's not fully guaranteed at the minute, because you have the talk of him being excited to go to Manchester United. There's also talk about him of him being open to join Newcastle, but nothing is set yet. So you still have to fight that to get what's the face to get a striker replacement in the building to get Sesko. So it's not still certain, because I'm sure right now Manchester United are also desperate, and they would want to they would be able to offer those high salaries that I think Newcastle will be able to offer as well. And then so I think that's it for me with respect to that. Wisa deal, he's throwing his toys out of his pram, you know, doesn't want to train with Brentford anymore, so he's kicking up his storm there. So maybe he gets to move, he gets to leave Brentford and join Newcastle United. But the way Brentford are run at the minute, they run very well. That once they set the price, you have to sort of meet it, because the same thing happened with Mbuemo. You know, they had a price set for Mbuemo. Manchester United delayed, wasted so much time, dragged their feet. End of the day, they ended up paying £65 million. You know, £65 million plus additional add-ons to take the entire package to 71 million pounds. So I think end of the day, Newcastle United, if you want Wisa, you go get Wisa. At this point of the season, with barely 2 weeks to the start of the season, this is not when you want to, be too tight on the purse strings. You go out and you get your Wisa in the building. Sesko at this point, I don't know if you're able to offer more than Manchester United, but that's what you may need to do at this point to get a Sesko in. You may have to do that. And I think if you're able to sell Isak for £120 million, possibly that could help you. And so I think not just £120 million, I think Newcastle are in a fine spot right now to get some other pieces off of Newcastle United. Maybe you could get a Rio Ugumoha as well. You could add him up to sort of your wish list. Say, okay, £120 million plus add-ons and some players as well, and that could help you. So I think this is how you go. How are you? Brentford should let Wisa go for £50 million deal for Wisa to Newcastle United now. So yeah, if Newcastle United stump up the cash, Brentford will let Wisa go. So there's no point at this point in the season to drag your feet. I think they make the offer and they get him. So that's fine. It's fine by me. So Isak rejected. Now we go to someone who's more or less done, medical scheduled, but the formalities have to be done. So that's Jorrel Hato. He's had his medical now has been, scheduled by Chelsea. At least that's what Fabrizio Romano, has said. And if all things being equal, come the end of this week, that probably will be announced. The medical will be announced for Jorrel Hato. And Chelsea fans, if you're on the stream, how do you feel about Jorrel Hato? How do you feel about the player? For me, I think it is a good move for Chelsea. I think it's a good move for Chelsea as he provides that instant backup for, So medical schedule for Hato 6 hours ago. Understand Jorrel Hato starts his medical as new Chelsea player later today. Documents completed by Chelsea and Ajax. Player undergoing medical, then set to sign a contract valid until June 2032. Deal done, confirmed. So nice to see. But overall, Chelsea fans, what do you think about Jorrel Hato joining the club? For me, I think that's a fair deal, a very good deal. And I think he brings the quality you need, at least as a backup. Obviously, he's not going to start. And of course, you've got Cucurella, top-class left back. We all know what he brings to the table. So he's there. And then you have Hato as a backup, because one thing Chelsea fans have been complaining about is fine, Cucurella has been good. He has been fantastic for the team. But if he gets out injured, if he's suspended, who comes up in his spot? And then as well, you have the issues with what's it called now, with playing Champions League football. Yeah, so you have Champions League football, you have the two domestic cups, and of course you have the Premier League as well to contend in. So you have so many games to play. So for me, Jorrel Hato playing at Chelsea, or rather joining Chelsea, passing this medical, is excellent news from a Chelsea perspective. Let me know what you think about this in the chats. But one player that we must talk about right now is Garnacho. This Garnacho, it just seems like it's something that will never end. Since last season, or rather since last January, we've had the link to Garnacho, and he's not go. These links aren't going anywhere soon. So, for me, essentially, what I feel is like Garnacho isn't really what Chelsea needs at this point in time. I don't see the huge need. Some Chelsea fans are sort of like, whatever the board decides, that's what I want. Whatever the club decides, I trust their decision implicitly, 100%. Well, if Garnacho is signed, what can I do? If Garnacho is signed right now, I can't do anything to stop it. I have to support him. But if you're asking me what I think about him coming to Chelsea right now, I don't think it's a huge need, because you've got Gittins. And then for me as well, I think you've got Tyreek George. We are sleeping on Tyreek George. I don't know if it's this culture of we want to get a new player, we want to get a new player in the building. You've got Tyreek George. And then, of course, you've got Nico Jackson. You've got Nicolas Jackson. For me, I think he's more of a winger than a striker. And you've got two strikers already in the building. So you've got João Pedro and Liam Delap that will already be fighting for spots, starting spots, or at least game time in that striking position. Jackson can play that left wing very well, in my opinion. And then, of course, you have Tyreek George. So I don't see that huge need to speed up 13 plus million pounds to get Garnacho. I just don't see it. Now, people say he has high upsides, a high ceiling as well, but is it really a need? Like, is it what you need right now? I don't think so. I think more so you invest that on a centre back or maybe a goalkeeper or something. I was watching a stream on a different YouTube channel, obviously, and someone was going on about, Garnacho has high upside, he's special. He's the only player that takes the ball and runs at defenders. That Madueke Madueke will get the ball, he will go up to the fullback and go back with the ball. I was like, what are you talking about? Yes, you may want to say Madueke is in world class. Maybe, yeah, I'll grant you that. He's a developing player, just like most of the players at Chelsea, right? And then he's left, he's gone to Arsenal. But you can't come in and tell me that Garnacho is suddenly world class. He may come in and be good and be decent, but he's nowhere near being world class at the minute. If he was world class, Manchester United wouldn't want to sell him. And in this transfer market, you don't sell world class players for 30 million pounds. I know you may say Manchester United is a bit of a madhouse at the minute, so maybe the environment is so toxic, no player can really thrive there, and at Chelsea he can improve. Yes, that's true, but does that mean he's an immediate, needle mover that comes into the team and instantly improves the team? I don't quite think so, in my humble opinion. And then back to this Isak thing. What do you think about it? Do you think Liverpool will finally get him? I think Andrea said he thinks that Liverpool would get him at that price. And for me, I think Liverpool has to stump up a bit more cash. I also think Newcastle United are missing the trick if they don't want more players, if they don't request for players, on that request for players in addition to the 120 million pounds. I think they would be missing a trick, in my opinion. So more transfer stories to speak about. More transfer stories to speak about. So you're having West Ham interested in a Brazilian goalkeeper. A Brazilian goalkeeper from Botafogo. I know he was at the Club World Cup. So is John Victor from Botafogo. Yeah, he was at the Club World Cup with Botafogo. Galatasaray and Everton also keen on John Victor after Manchester United monitored him in recent months. So for me, I think that could be a good move for West Ham. The one club that also needs a goalkeeper? That's Chelsea. Chelsea really do need a goalkeeper. Really do need a goalkeeper, in my opinion. But the powers that be say we're going with Robert Sanchez going into the start of the season. So, well, we have to deal with that one. We have to deal with that one. So, just opinion so far on the bid rejected and on the possibility of Liverpool offering Darwin Nunes. Newcastle United fans, would you want Darwin Nunes? Would you accept Darwin Nunes as a make weight for transfer of Isak? And what other strikers out there do you think can come in and make a difference or take his spot? Let's say you don't get a Sesko, for instance. Would you go for Ollie Watkins? Because Ollie Watkins has wanted out for a while, at Aston Villa. But would he swap Aston Villa for a Newcastle United, or looking for maybe a club that you think is a bigger club in Manchester United? So, just some opinions on that one. Or would you still go for Nicholas Jackson? Nicholas Jackson, we've had the likes of Juventus being interested in Nicholas Jackson. We've had also, the likes of obviously Newcastle monitoring the player. Chelsea fans, what is your take on Nicholas Jackson? For me, Nicholas Jackson, I think if he's willing to play at that left wing, if Enzo Maresca is willing to play him as a left winger, then he can thrive and he can remain at the club. But if he wants to be a striker, if he sees himself as a nine and nothing else, and if Enzo Maresca more importantly sees him as a striker and nothing else, then there is a problem, because I think João Pedro is already the number one striker. And then there's a battle between Jackson and Liam Delap. And I think Liam Delap would have more runway this season because this is his first season at the club. This is his time to impress, as opposed to Nicholas Jackson, who's had 2 seasons, I think, and he'll be heading to his third full season with Chelsea if he doesn't move. So I just think it's either he plays as a winger or he leaves. That's why I say it, because I don't think he would have as much game time as he would need to show himself. And quite frankly, what he's done last season, though he scored 14 goals or thereabout, I don't think it's enough to sort of guarantee that second striker spot. And João Pedro right now, for me, I think he is better than both Liam Delap and Nicholas Jackson. But never say never. Nicholas Jackson didn't come in and really shock everyone else with his performance. He says he's on a mission, this season. Let's see how that checks out. So more transfer news to talk about. Let's see what else we can pick up. And Newcastle United sending a player out on loan. That's not what we're really interested in. And of course, Ipswich doing some signing as well. Bid rejected. We've seen that. All before. Well, it's not something I want to see. Alejandro Garnacho keen on joining Chelsea. Now, this is something I've talked about. Keen on joining Chelsea. Well, for me, I'm not keen on him joining Chelsea. But it just seems like it's going to happen anyways. Alejandro Garnacho keen on joining Chelsea. It was a priority. It was his priority in January, and he's still keen on the move this summer. Chelsea considering to bid later this month for Garnacho, as said for weeks, and he's waiting for Chelsea as priority despite bids from abroad. Now, well, fair play to him for waiting, and I think any bid for Garnacho will be tied to Chelsea actually selling some players. Your Nkunkus, maybe your Chilwells. Chilwell, so fun, no one seems to talk about him anymore. Your Sterling, if those sort of sales are made, then maybe you go for a Garnacho. But for me, even at that, do you still need him? I don't think so. For me, I think focus right now should be on Xavi, getting Xavi Simons in the building, in addition to your Hato. And I think you're good to go for the season, except you're getting the centre back. I don't really see the need for Garnacho, but if you sign him, well, that's what we have there. But I would have asked this question: if you need a left winger, why not get Ademola Lookman? Yeah, because you have Inter Milan, and you've got Atalanta, unable to come to an agreement, because Inter Milan are like, this is the offer we're making, take it or leave it. Atalanta like, this offer is way too low, and his wage demands as well are right in sort of the level where clearly and Bluco want him. And in terms of production, he's produced more than Garnacho, more than a lot of left wingers. So Why not go for Ademola Lookman instead, as opposed to going for a Garnacho? Is it just an age thing? Because way structure wise, he fits in perfectly. It's currently on is it 44 thousand euros a week. So I think that fits in rightly with what Dele Cabluco want to do. And he produces more and is ready to go. He's a player that comes in and is ready to go right now. So I would have preferred that instead. But it is what it is. And then, of course, Arsenal, we heard that Eberezi's clause will expire today. I think so. So, the likes of Arsenal, they were linked with him, that have been linked with him. What are they doing? Because I think, from an Arsenal perspective, I don't think going into the season with just Odegaard would work. I don't think it will work. I don't think it will be sufficient because Ibereze brings something different, brings something dynamic to the play. I would love him at Chelsea, but apparently we're going for Javi Simons instead. I would love Ibereze instead at at Chelsea, but apparently he's good. Arsenal have a link with him. But what's happening with it? We don't heard anything, and that means the clause will be expiring by today. And if and when it does, that means his value, or rather you'd have to pay way more than that, way more than the bar clause. I think Crystal Palace are one of those clubs that can make this really difficult for the club that wants to get their player. And fair play, fair play. We'll just take a brief break and then we'll be back with more transfer news, more transfer reactions, I'd say. Yes, so welcome back and thanks for waiting and staying tuned. Now, first off, want to know your thoughts and opinions on Isak, the deal, the offer from Liverpool being rejected by Liverpool, and other reports are saying Liverpool are confident that the deal can be struck. They're going back in again, to make another offer. Maybe it could be additional money plus player. Let's see how that shakes out. And we talked about Garnacho, really, really wanted to join Chelsea, desperate to join Chelsea, of course, Club World Cup champions. So, what are your thoughts and opinions on that one? And then, of course, you've had other deals as well that have happened. For instance, West Ham going for Botafogo goalkeeper. West Ham fans, is that something you're open to? the goalkeeper that you want, that what you had on your wish list. And then as well, Spurs have, completed the signing of Palinia, the former Fulham midfielder, as went on to join Bayern Munich. You know, I don't think with Vincent Company as the head coach, I don't think he. In fact, I don't think he would have got game time this season because Company is more of these modern coaches. Everyone must be good on the ball. While Palinia is just a pure destroyer. He gives everyone confidence to play and be good on the ball and do everything they want to do up front. But he also is very good in the midfield. And for me, I think he suits what Thomas Frank wants and how he wants to play, because I think you can't have managers that are so different. That's so different. That's Thomas Frank and Postecoglou. Postecoglou is all guns blazing, high octane football, crazy, crazy high line. But Thomas Frank is more pragmatic, in the way he wants to play. And then, so I think Palinia fits into that very well. So Palinia to Tottenham, here we go. Final green light arrived right now from Bayern. Exclusive detail loan deal includes 30 million euros by option clause for Spurs, not mandatory. Salary covered by Spurs. Bayern said yes to Palinia. Will now travel for medical tests. So I think this is a good deal for Spurs. Comes in, shows you what he can do. If he really delivers, as I think he can deliver in that role and under Thomas Frank, I think he would be a very, very good signing for Spurs. So let's see how that shakes down, because you need that still in the midfield. I know right now everyone wants to see those exciting players, your strikers, your pacey wingers and all, but I think Palinia is a good signing. You need to take care of your midfield. You need to take care of your midfield, in my opinion. So fair play to Spurs, they've got that done. So let's see how it all shakes out. And then while they've done that, they've also let one of their prize assets go in Mikey Moore. I think it's on loan to Rangers and with a buy option. So for me, well, fair play. Let's see what he can do there. That's from a sports perspective. Let's see what he can do there. And I'm hoping probably he plays well and he gets to join Rangers on a permanent deal. So Rangers fans, happy with that move. Let's see how it shakes down from there on. And then as well, I've talked about this before, but Jorrel Hato undergoing his medical at Chelsea. So those opinions on that one, those opinions on Jorrel Hato and his medical at Chelsea. I think probably will be formality. Most times medicals are formality, except there is some really, huge issue. So fair plays, and I think he comes in and is ready to play. But more importantly, it's very important that Chelsea has got a backup for Cucurella. Maybe you don't call him backup, maybe you call him competition, because for me, happy you have Gusto and Rich James on that side of the pitch. Now you have Cucurella and Hato on the left side of the pitch. So for me, I think that's a good deal. And some people have been saying, "Oh, why do you sign it? Why do you spend that money on a youngster? Is he going to get game time?" Don't worry, there are lots of games he will get game time. The only thing for me that just made me feel a bit sad was that Ishii Smith could have had that slot, but it didn't happen. He's gone over to Strasbourg on loan, so fair play to him. So that's okay, that's fine by me. Now Hato is in the team. So just opinions on that one. And hopefully the deal for Xavi gets done. And I think the Xavi deal, I wouldn't say is 100% dependent on sales, but it's another deal that would make sense and will be hastened when sales are done, when sales are made. So the likes of your Nkunkus, the likes of your Sterlings, when they're sold, when they're out the window, I think that would speed up the deal for Xavi. And one thing about this Xavi deal is you have this Sesko thing. They could be tied in. They could be seriously tied in. So either Newcastle United and Manchester United on one hand, Chelsea on the other, have to complete the deal for the players they want. If Chelsea really wants Xavi, they should get him, because this could be one of those things where we know we have to sell one of our prize assets. And once we do that, that's from a Leipzig point of view, once that's done, we shut up shop and we don't sell anyone to the next season. And I'm thinking that right now, Leipzig would prefer to sell Xavi because he just has 2 years on his contract and he doesn't want to renew. So I think they will be more likely to sell or looking or rather prefer to sell Xavi than Sesko. So if that Xavi deal is done, I think that suddenly makes that deal really, really, really difficult for what's his face, really difficult for Manchester United and Newcastle United. But there's something I saw in Fabrizio's tweet that I want us to look at. I think it didn't. It wasn't a major. It wasn't put in huge print, but it was just something there that could really be significant for you know um, yeah, really be significant for you know both parties that want to get the signature. Now, if we look at this, it says the usual thing, like it always says. It says Liverpool opening bid for Alexander Isak was worth £120 million package plus add-ons. Newcastle United rejected as they wouldn't open doors at least until finding a replacement, and it is not guaranteed at this stage. That is, at this stage, finding a replacement, at least a replacement that they want anyways, is not guaranteed. So for me, that's really, really important. So this whole deal, whether for Manchester United, this whole Isak deal is dependent on Newcastle getting a replacement. Now, who do they even want to sign? Because the KTK that was meant to be like the replacement for Liverpool, for Newcastle United, that's gone to Liverpool. So who are they looking to sign? I've called up some names. Some people might say, "Oh, because you're Nigerian, you're calling those names." Well, I have them to gate, but Victor Osimhen could have signed him. That's out the window. There are other strikers, Rafiu, Tula Rokodare. Those are strikers that I think that are more bang for your buck, than an Isak, the more value for money than the Sesko, sorry, from Newcastle United point of view. So I think that's really, really important that if Newcastle United are unable for whatever reason to get, a replacement, Isak isn't going anywhere. And what's a bit strange for me in this whole thing is this. Why didn't Isak pull this tantrum? Why didn't he get so irate while Liverpool hadn't signed Ekitike? Why is he doing it now? People will say, oh, maybe he thought Liverpool had eyes for only him. Now, the thing is, when the rumors and reports came up that Liverpool were interested in Ekitike, that should have been the time for him to start, getting irate, throwing his tantrums, complaining, wanting to leave, So I think that would have been a better time, and that maybe Newcastle United would have been, more pressure to make the Ekitike deal done. Because right now, he's in a tough spot because if they're not getting a replacement, then it's going to be really, really difficult for this deal to be done. And don't mind what the media is saying. Newcastle United are in fair good nick financially. And I don't think they're under any pressure to sell. It's just that before they can buy, they have to sell some players. They have to turn up some profit or something financial like that. So, and let's see how it shakes down if indeed they're able to, get get a replacement in the building, And so, and then going back to Chelsea, one player is left on loan, and that's McGeough. McGeough is going on loan to Sunderland. Now, I hope he gets game time there. I hope he gets to play because we've seen this since where clubs will sign players on loan and never give them game time, which is just odd for me. You get players and you don't give them game time. So, and possibly for me, this would have been better done towards the end of the season, transfer window, when they're actually desperate to get a player in. Because we've seen it before. Get players and don't give them game time, which is just odd and crazy for me, in my opinion. So, total opinions on the transfer window so far, on latest news, the breaking news, the talk about Isak being rejected, to talk about Hato's medical going on today, and Garnacho keen on joining Chelsea? Is that a move that Chelsea should be making? Manchester United, don't you want to keep that special player, special player? And then Oli Watkins, I wonder how Oli Watkins is feeling at this minute, because for Manchester United, it feels like he's more of the fallback option if the move for Sesko doesn't happen then, and only then would they consider him, because I think he's cheaper than Sesko and more, has Premier League experience that Sesko obviously doesn't have. And then the only question has been about his age. He said he's 29, going on 30. He will lose his pace. But we've seen players maintain their pace till they're about 33, 34. So I don't know why they're looking at him, but maybe we want a project striker. And Sesko is a sexy name right now. You have all the other ones off the board. Liam Delap, we're looking to get this off the board right now, obviously at Chelsea. So we want to get a Sesko. Now, let me ask, who do you think will actually get Sesko and why? If you were to decide, where would you want to see Sesko go? Manchester United fans, would you want to buy a club? For a neutral fan, where would you want to see, Sesko go? For me, I don't know why. I prefer to see him at Newcastle United than Manchester United. I don't have any sort of dog in the fight. I don't have any sort of horse in this race. So, wherever he goes, that's fine. I'm more excited about Hato joining Chelsea. Hopefully, the announcement is today. Garnacho, not so much, not pleased, not really enamored with his prospective signing. And then, of course, Eberezer to Arsenal. Would that even happen? Do they have enough time to meet his buyout clause or release clause? I don't know. Xavi Simons. And the thing about Xavi Simons right now is that RB Leipzig have their eyes on some Chelsea players. So they're looking at Tyreek George, they're looking at Kani Chukwuemeka, they're looking at Nkunku as well. So I think the Nkunku one for me is something very easy. Like Nkunku, he's played there before, and I'm sure he would feel at the back of his mind that going to RB Leipzig, could start him up again, could help him reignite his career, have more to breathe new life into his career. So I think that would be an easy one to do, in my opinion. And then Tyreek George, I do not want to lose Tyreek George. I think he's a very impressive young talent and should be in the squad this season. And then for Kani Chukwuemeka, I think he's already out of the building. He's been on loan at Dortmund. Chelsea would rather prefer a permanent sale. So, but I think if RB Leipzig want him, and that would sort of reduce the asking price for Xavi Simons, then I think that's what Chelsea should do. Maybe Kani and Nkunku. No, I think that's too much. I think Kani and Nkunku plus money will be too much for Xavi Simons. He's a very good player, but I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's what Nkunku, Kani, and maybe £30 million. I don't think so. But maybe the pure business heads at Chelsea may feel that that's a deal that should be done. But for me, I don't really see it as something that should be done. Instead, Atalanta, the reports that Inter Milan are looking at Nkunku as another option. If the deal for Ademola Lookman doesn't work, then they'll go in for him, which is a bit crazy because, of course, his wages, except he's going to take a massive pay cut. Except Christo Nkunku will take a massive pay cut. That move is not going to pull through to Inter Milan, because if Inter can pay, 44, maybe offer 50,000 euros for Ademola Lookman, who, in my opinion, had a better season than Nkunku and already knows the league. I'm not quite sure why, they'll be able to offer 100 plus, 200 plus, 100 plus for Nkunku. That'll be a new face, a new body that will come in to the league that would have to acclimatize to Syria, how the game is played there, and that you're not sure of his production. But I think he will absolutely crush it in Inter Milan. That's my opinion. I think he'll crush it in the Syria period. I think he's going to crush it there. So all these outgoings must be done. Sterling, Fulham looking interested. I really wouldn't mind him going over to Fulham. I think it'd be a good move for Fulham. But then again, the question is, will Fulham, be open to paying his wages? Because his wages are really crazy. 300 plus, not of £300,000 for me, usually I'm not really crazy about. I don't really care about what footballers earn. If you negotiate a contract with a club and they agree to pay you £1 million a week, that's fair play to you and your team. I don't really care that much. But some clubs see it as really, really important. Of course, they have to because they have to pay the money. I'm just a fan. So, would Fulham look at that and say, we are going to sacrifice this and see you as the main guy on the team? And it would be funny for me, very interesting to see how Ryan Sterling would press at Fulham because that's something he didn't do at Chelsea. And that's one of the reasons I think Enzo Maresca looked at him and said, okay, I don't think you should stay here anymore. I think it's time for you to leave. So fair play, fair play. All these sales have to be done before certain incomings happen. And Newcastle United, we rejected Isak looking for a replacement. I don't want Nicholas Jackson going. I think he can be a good winger, but Nicholas Jackson is there. So, what do you do going into the end of the transfer window? Don't forget the end on the 1st of September, I think 12 a.m. or it ends 12 a.m. But you have to get your players ready. You need players to be ready for preseason. And preseason has already started for Newcastle United, and they don't have a striker yet. Callum Wilson is gone. Isak is wherever he is, and his bid has been rejected. So and Chelsea, that's one thing I want. I want Javi Simons to be in the building as well because preseason is just near. It's just near. It's just on the 18th, on the 8th. I think that's when Chelsea plays. And that's when Chelsea will play. Her first preseason game against Bayer Leverkusen. So let's see how that shakes out. So transfer business, thoughts and opinions. What sort of business would you want? What areas would you want your club to get players in going into the transfer window? Going into the season, what areas do you think your team is lacking? For me, whilst in certain positions, I would have preferred certain players at Chelsea, but where I think you really need a budget right now is that centre back position. You need one more centre back, which is odd since they sent Mamadou Sarr back to Strasbourg on loan. I was thinking he was going to stay. So for me, I think Chelsea needs one centre back in the building. For me, I think Liverpool, the team is stacked. I don't see why they want to get Isak, but whatever they want to play for 2 diamond, whatever they want to get him. Manchester United, I think they need a goalkeeper. And there's talks of Manchester United being linked to Donnarumma. And I don't think his wages will be an issue for Manchester United. I think they're going to pay it anyways. If that deal, comes to the point where they're negotiating personal terms, I don't think his wages will be an issue. But he is not that guy to play out from the back. That's the issue. We saw it in the Club World Cup. Every time to play goal kicks, he was not the one taking the kicks. It was always Marquinhos. So he's not really that good playing out from the back. If Manchester United are looking for the supposed modern day goalkeeper that plays out from the back, that is Zidane on the ball, then Donnarumma may not be the guy for Manchester United. But every other thing else that a goalkeeper is expected to do, he crushes it. So let's see how that shakes down. So look about some of the key transfer news items that have made the rounds so far today. Nominate some opinions on these bits of transfer news, bits of transfer reports. We talked about Isak going to Liverpool, being rejected. We talked about Paulinho, João Paulinho joining Spurs on loan, 30 million euros, by option. Spurs fan, is that a deal you want? Is that a deal you like? For me, I think that's a deal that they have to do because you need some steel in that midfield. For me, Chelsea's midfield, I think, is pretty solid at this point in time. Andre Santos, solid. Caicedo, solid. Esu, I think, is solid. I've not seen so much of him play so far. And then, of course, you have Enzo Fernandez in the midfield, so solid as well. One more area maybe to get another 10 to help Cole Palmer out. And that's why I want to see Javi Simons through the buildings. But for me, Chelsea right now is more about outgoings than incomings right now. So your Sterlings and the likes have to be, out the door. And then for Spurs, they'll let Mickey Moore go out on loan to Rangers with an option to buy. Let's say that Sheikh Stark. Speaking on Rangers still, Samuel Edozie was linked to a move to Rangers. So let's see if that indeed, happens. And Everton as well. Everton are looking to sign Tyler Diblin from Southampton. Their first bid was rejected, and they're looking to go back in again with the second one. And I'm just asking myself this question: all these deals, all these players that Everton is signing, is it really a David Moyes signing? And I don't want to put him in a box, but we all know what David Moyes is all about. Hard working, hard pressing. Sometimes can be super compact. And Tyler Dibley doesn't strike me as a player that puts in, a lot of that puts in so much defensive shift, that puts in that, absolute 10/10 defensive shift game in, game out. I think he's one of those players that loves the ball more to his feet, so he can be creative with it, he can run at defenders with it. So I just have this thought in my mind that he might not be the fit for Moyes. I think that was the same issue I had with the business Everton was doing, under Sean Dyche. In that year, you were nice, exciting players, but ask yourself how, at this time at Burnley, how did he get success? That Sean Dyche, how did he get success? His ability, the fact that he made Burnley a stable Premier League club, how did he do it? It wasn't with flair players, it was more workman-like players. So is it someone that can actually switch? And we saw that it didn't work out. And then David Moyes is slightly better than Sean Dyche in terms of being attack-minded, but he still goes back to type. So Tyler Diblin is really going to shine there. He's really going to shine. So how is he going to play? You already have Ndaye there. You're going to play with 2 10s, so you're going to play Tyler Diblin right on the wings. Maybe Thierry Barry is someone I'm excited to see. He's the one player not signed to Chelsea that I'm really excited to see what he does at Basel. Was an absolute monster for Basel, and then Villarreal. I think he was fairly impressive there as well. And I want to see what he can do. I want to see really what he can do at in the Premier League. I think he's built for the Premier League. 65, absolute unit, massive player. So let's see. I'm really excited to see what he does if he really shines at Everton. I think Everton could be the next phase of his evolution. So he can be that DJ Drogba type, ball comes to his chest, holds it up, and brings everyone into play. And I think that he's, as opposed to Tyler Dibley, I'm not quite sure. I think Everton fans would really love Thierry Barry, So, and Adam Arsenal is another one. For me, he's a bit like an Ignori. He's a bit like a younger Ignori. And that's when I scratch my head to think, is this someone that really would shine under David Moyes? Yeah, he would have the ball. It would be exciting going forward when it comes to defending. I have my doubts. I have my doubts. And is this someone that really, really David Moyes would like? So like that's the same thing I was saying about Sean Dyche. That's what I'm saying about David Moyes right now. These players being signed by Everton don't ring to me to be David Moyes type signings. So that's why I say it, because Tyler Diblin is a 10 in my opinion, but you want to play him out wide. How does it fit in? So you're going to play with the diamond, having play on the right side of the diamond, and having Dyer play at the tip of the diamond. For me, it doesn't quite mesh. Doesn't quite mesh. But let's see how those happen. Well, let's see how everything shakes down. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the business transfer news so far, and just hold on for a second. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Yeah, so thanks for staying tuned. So this is the final bit of the video of the stream. So we talked about Isak, talked about other players, but one more player for Manchester United that I think most of Manchester United fans would be happy to see the back of, and that's Jadon Sancho. So apparently Borussia Dortmund are still interested in the player in addition to interest from Juventus, and it now seems like he is willing to take a pay cut, which is odd. That he refused to take the pay cut at Chelsea, but now is willing to take a pay cut to go to Dortmund. But it seems like right now, since you're heading towards the start of preseason for most clubs, or right in the middle of preseason for most clubs, and the start of the new season, maybe he's now seen the light that he has to take a pay cut. And Dortmund, I think, will be a good landing spot for Jadon Sancho because he's been there. He's been pretty successful. The first time he was there was impressive. Went back there on loan again and played very well, and got helped them get to the final before to Champions League final, and then before joining up with Chelsea. So they said Florian Plattenberg, Borussia Dortmund are still working on a transfer for Jadon Sancho and exploring the possibility of a third return. Talks are ongoing. Sebastian Kerr did not deny Dortmund's interest in Sancho yesterday. Speaking to Sky, he said, "We have various targets." Yeah, fair play, fair play. You always downplay things so you don't crazily increase the value of a player. So I'm sure Manchester United will be happy with any news that sees Sancho leaving. Fair play. I think it was pretty okay. It was pretty okay, not too amazing, but pretty okay at Chelsea. But for me, if you want to play that high-paced football where the moment you get the ball, you have space, you let it go. I don't think he can play it. So I think Gittins is more suited. I'm not saying Gittins is better than Sancho. I'm just saying in terms of natural athletic ability, I think Gittins fits more what Maresca I think wants to do. If how Chelsea played against PSG seems to go by, I think Gittins is more suited. So and then Perineto as well more suited to that fast break 1v1 play. So I think fair play to Sancho. Hopefully he gets the move and everyone can relax, just like Marcus Rashford has got his move to Barcelona right now. So everyone can relax in that regard. Let's see how all those things sort of pan out. So I'll just run through all the sort of transfer topics that I've reacted to today. Want to know your opinions on them. I've talked about, of course, the big one, Isak, the first bid made, rejected, and Liverpool are confident that that they could have a deal done. And although, according to Fabrizio Romano, Newcastle United are holding out until when they get a replacement for Isak, and right now it's not looking super guaranteed because Sesko, who is their prime target at the minute, is also drawing interest from Manchester United. So in terms of resources, I think Manchester United can match Newcastle United, in terms of what they can offer in regards to personal terms. So that's the big one there. I've talked about options that you could consider. Look at the striker for Genk, massive striker. He can do a job as well. So maybe they look at other options, but let's see how that shakes out. Because Premier League clubs, what do Premier League clubs like? Premier League clubs don't like any striker who is £20 million, £30 million. Premier League clubs like a striker that has been signed by RB Leipzig or by Dortmund, and then they go on to pay crazy amount of money. A club like Leipzig or Frankfurt to sign a player for maybe £20 million, and then after 2 years, will value the player at 80, £90 million. And then Premier League clubs, that's when they want to pay for it, buy a striker. That's when they say the striker has value. So they're holding out for Sesko. Let's see, how that shakes out. We talked about Hato doing his medical today. Hopefully that's done quickly and the announcement is made. About Garnacho being keen on joining Chelsea. And let's see if indeed that deal is done. I think that's more tied to sales and outgoings. And Fabrizio Romano has said that the possible deal for Garnacho isn't tied to the deal for Xavi. That is, both of them can still happen. So for me, I'm happy about that because I do not want any sort of deal for Garnacho tainting Chelsea's chances of getting Xavi Simons because I think he's more of a need for Chelsea than another winger. because you're going into the playing Champions League, and you need to play as strong a team as possible when you're playing the Champions League and then you're playing in the Premier League, as opposed to Conference League where you could play academy players, where you could bring Ken Odaya and play him. But you're going to Champions League, you must be able to play strong teams in every one of those games. So for me, I think in the middle, the 10 role, Javi Simons is needed in addition to obviously Cole Palmer, who is the first one, who is the number 110, if you get what I mean. While Javi Simons will be backup support or some tactical, tool as well. For instance, if Maresca decides to go with a typical 4-2-3-1, narrow 4-2-3-1, then you could have 3 10s there. I struggle to figure out who will be the third person. That would be the third 10, but Palmer and Javi Simons could be 1 and 2 10. So let's see how that shakes down as well. Talk about Sancho now willing to take a pay cut and Dortmund working to get him into the building. Of course, Juventus still interested. So, and then we've talked about Mikey Moore of Spurs, leaving them to join Rangers and on a loan with a buy option of 30 million euros, of course. And then they have got Palhinha, the former Fulham midfielder, central defensive midfielder, to join them from Bayern Munich on loan and a buy option of 30 million euros. And I think that's a good buy. You have to do that, especially if you have Thomas Frank as your coach, because he wants to play, wants to have someone that can do the defensive side of things. We all like those sexy players, good on the ball, very skillful and all that, but they don't put in much defensive shifts. We talked about Everton as well. They've got Chino Barry already. They've got the fullback from Bayern. I think I can ask this question: is it really a Moyes signing? Exciting player, but I don't quite think it's a Moyes signing. But nonetheless, he's in the building. Let's see what he does. Excited to see what Chino Barry will do this season for Everton. Let's see, how that shakes down. And then Everton are considering, making a second bid for Tyler Diblin after the initial bid, was rejected by, Southampton. So let's see how that shakes out. And that's another question that still attaches itself to the question I asked earlier on. Are these signings really, 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 Everton, David Moyes signing? Because these signings feel more like a club signing to me. Because remember when Sean Dyche was the head coach of Everton, we were making this Ndiaye signings, and I was saying, really Ndiaye to play under Sean Dyche? And Sean Dyche is a very good coach, but he's super, super pragmatic and doesn't play super exciting football, which is fair. So I think this is more of an ownership signing, and maybe they could be, looking at a similar model to Chelsea, where no matter what Maresca says, these signings are more of the Cleric and Bluco signings. So maybe the same thing is happening, with Everton, where the club are doing sort of signings. So if the manager ends up leaving, whichever coach comes in would have to work with these players. But I'm looking forward to the Premier League season. Really excited to see, how it shakes down. I want to see how Tyler Diblin indeed fits in, with this David Moyes side in the system, how he would work. Would he be one of those people where Everton would just say, okay, you're the luxury player, you're the special player, we'll let you and Ndiaye, not really put in that much defensive shift, but just go and be creative. Let's see if that would even really happen. Hato, excited to see Hato at Chelsea, excited to see Simons at Chelsea. Let me know, which player are you excited to see for your club or in the Premier League in general? Let me know in the chat. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me on the stream. And those of you who have been here all through the stream, you are the real MVPs. Thank you so much. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. And if you want to, subscribe. And also share the video to people you feel will love this content as well. And I'll see you on another video. So stay well.